Well, one reason that the National Archives knew that Donald Trump did not hand over all presidential records when he left the White House was that some of the most famous documents of the Trump presidency were not delivered to the archives after Joe Biden's inauguration day. First among them was the very first document Donald Trump received as president, a handwritten letter from President Barack Obama to his successor that, by tradition, as everyone knows, is tucked into a drawer in the desk in the Oval Office for the incoming president. It was public information on Inauguration Day in 2017 that President Obama left that letter for Donald Trump, who said it was, quote, a beautiful letter. He actually said that about the President Obama letter to him. And then there were the letters that became possibly the most famous presidential letters in history, the Trump love letters.
I got a very beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un. He really wrote a beautiful 3-page, right from top to bottom, a really beautiful letter.
Donald Trump never said very much about the text of those letters from the North Korean dictator, but he was never shy about the feelings expressed in those letters.
We fell in love, okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
For most of us, that was just more Trumpian buffoonery. That was just Donald Trump opening up like that about love letters from a murderous dictator was, for most of us, just yet another one of those moments when we knew he was crazy, but we didn't know he was that crazy. But imagine you're a senior archivist at the National Archives, and you're watching the news that night on September 29th, 2018, and you see and hear Donald Trump say about Kim Jong-un, he wrote me beautiful letters and had great letters. We fell in love. You're an archivist. You know those letters are coming your way at some point. Do you jump off the sofa at home when you hear that? Do you spill whatever you were drinking when you hear Donald Trump say that he has beautiful letters from Kim Jong-un? He has love letters from the murderous North Korean dictator who starves his people? From that moment forward, every archivist working at the National Archives who knew that they were going to see eventually the Trump presidential papers had to be planning on day one of delivery of the Trump presidential papers an immediate high-speed search for the Trump love letters with Kim Jong-un. But the Trump presidential papers showed up at the end of the Trump presidency, and the love letters weren't there. President Obama's letter to Donald Trump wasn't there. And that's when the archives lawyers started asking the Trump lawyers for the rest of Donald Trump's presidential papers, not knowing how much more Donald Trump had been illegally holding back at that point and keeping in his possession. But they knew that he had the love letters and he had the President Obama letter. The Washington Post is reporting tonight on an email they have exclusively obtained from the chief counsel of the National Archives, Gary Stern, to Trump lawyers 4 months after Donald Trump left office with the subject line, "Need for Assistance, Ray Presidential Records." Gary Stern had apparently been in communication with Trump's White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, who apparently agreed that there were presidential records that still needed to be delivered to the National Archives. Gary Stern's email to the Trump lawyers 4 months after the Trump presidency says, "It is also our understanding that roughly 24 boxes of original presidential records were kept in the residence of the White House over the course of President Trump's last year in office and have not been transferred to the National Archives, despite a determination by Pat Cipollone in the final days of the administration that they need to be. The Washington Post reports that in his email, Stern cites at least two high-profile documents that the archives knew at the time were missing: letters from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and a letter from former President Barack Obama at the beginning of Trump's presidency. That's how the investigation of Donald Trump's illegal possession of presidential records and other governmental records, including classified records, began. It was about the love letters. The archives wanted to know, where is that traditional letter from the outgoing president to the incoming president? And where are the love letters with Kim Jong-un? In that first email, archives attorney Gary Stern seemed to know something about the love letters already. He seemed to know that Donald Trump had specifically decided to take personal possession of the love letters in his very final days in office. The Washington Post reports that attorney Gary Stern, quote, did cite the correspondence between Trump and Kim as an example of an item the former president requested just prior to the end of the administration. Stern wrote, "It is our understanding that in January 2021, just prior to the end of the administration, the originals were put in a binder for the president, but were never returned to the Office of Records Management for the National Archives." So already, just a few months after Donald Trump left office, people who worked in the Trump White House were obviously already informing the National Archives about exactly when Donald Trump took personal possession of the Kim Jong-un love letters. The National Archives spent the rest of that full year trying to get those documents back and whatever else Donald Trump had. And we now know that at the end of that first year out of office, Donald Trump personally looked through the boxes of government records at his Florida home. The New York Times reported Mr. Trump went through the boxes himself in late 2021, according to multiple people briefed on his efforts before turning them over. And then, 1 year after Donald Trump left office, and after Donald Trump personally went through all those boxes at the end of 2021, 15 boxes of documents were returned to the National Archives from Donald Trump's Florida home, and still Donald Trump was illegally keeping more classified government records and other government records in his home. And so the National Archives got the Justice Department involved, and federal prosecutors working with FBI agents issued a subpoena for all the rest of the records that could be remaining at Donald Trump's home. And in early June, federal prosecutors and FBI agents visited Donald Trump's home in a scheduled visit with Donald Trump's lawyers, where Donald Trump's lawyers handed over even more documents to return to the archives. And then one of the Trump lawyers, Christina Bobb, actually signed a written statement saying, "That's it. That's all the material that we have here. You now have it all." Signed her name to that. No more government records, no more classified material left in the home after that day in June. Federal investigators became convinced very quickly that that was not true. And then they convinced a Florida federal judge to issue a search warrant of Donald Trump's home for evidence of illegal possession of government records and illegal possession of classified records and evidence of obstruction of justice. And that search was carried out on August 8th. Tomorrow, that same federal judge in Florida will decide how much of what the FBI told him about the possible crimes in this case can be revealed to the public. Judge Bruce Reinhart will consider releasing the FBI affidavit or portions of it that convinced him to issue the search warrant tomorrow after a 12 noon deadline tomorrow that he imposed on the Justice Department, asking the Justice Department to submit to him suggested redactions to the affidavit to protect individual sources and other possible sensitive issues raised in that FBI affidavit. Judge Reinhart has said that it is possible that the redactions would have to be so extensive that there would be no real point in releasing an almost fully redacted affidavit. The judge could decide as early as tomorrow afternoon about whether the affidavit can be released and in what form, but what will not be released tomorrow afternoon, or probably ever, are the Trump love letters, which are classified material.